This video has been brought to you by Marketplace.tf, a community-focused place that buy and sell Team Fortress 2 items. This includes no fees for buyers, no minimum wallet balance, trusted sellers, and bots that make buying bulk a breeze. Sign up today for Marketplace.tf and get what you want easily and safely. Emphasis on the safely part.
Say it isn't so, say it isn't so. For once, we followed a stranger offering up free candy, and what do you know, there actually was candy. Kids, the day we've been waiting for is finally here. We officially have a viable alternative to the Ubersaw. For those of you guys who don't know or just in denial, I guess, the Ubersaw is a staple of the meta medic loadout. It is the pinnacle of medic melee weapons. The amputator, the solemn vow, even the frying pan, but not the bone saw. That thing will still get me where it's pure. All of them absolutely pale in comparison to the pure utility of the Ubersaw. But along came a spider in the form of the Vitasaw, recently being buffed through the Jungle Inferno update. Some say it's still inferior to the Ubersaw, some say it's just as good, So now, since we finally have something to pit it against, let's put the Ubersaw and the Vitasaw head to head and see which one does what best. The statistics for the Ubersaw are incredibly easy. At the cost of 25% swing speed, every hit on an enemy increases your Uber meter by 25%. That's it. Simple. It's easy. Piece of cake. Like beating a 4-year-old at boxing. The Vitasaw statistics go a bit more into the brown. Every successful hit on an enemy grants you an organ, and for each organ you collect, you keep 15% of your current Ubercharge level, with the maximum possible level being 60%. And of course, dealings with the devil have their costs. This ability comes with the price of lowering your max health by 10. So the Ubersaw. Now, I'm going to be relatively short explaining the Ubersaw, as I'm sure most people understand the ins and outs of it and have held this in their hand more than their own junk, so I'll be quick about it. The Ubersaw is the definition of high risk, high reward. In order to benefit at all from it, you have to be within melee range of somebody and live. Now, the setting at which you use this weapon makes a dramatic difference. In casual, you can take a stab at somebody and be out the door before they realize that it wasn't in fact just a mosquito. This weapon is a different story in competitive, however. A medic being within melee range of pretty much any other class leaves a very slim chance of survival. And since most kids aren't playing with their monitors off like in casual, it's pretty likely you'll end up 6 feet under. But when the stars align and you manage to take a swing at somebody and live, that's when the Ubersaw truly shines. 25% doesn't really seem like a lot, but if you ask any competitive player, 25% extra Ubercharge can completely change the course of a match. And since most players focus more on running away when they see a shiny man, you can maybe get lucky and sneak in 1 or 2 extra saws on people to extend your Uber by a good couple of seconds. I wouldn't recommend it though. The times you can get away with it are slim, and more than likely you'll end up wasting more Uber than gaining it. Plus, you're disconnected from your pocket, meaning he could die, and not Ubercharge yourself, meaning you could die. It's just a lot of paperwork. And like I said, high risk, high reward. That's just the story of the Ubersaw. Alright, now on to what I really wanted to talk about, the Vitasaw. Now, whether or not it can compete with the Ubersaw aside, it is without a doubt exponentially better than its original design. Once upon a time, the Vitasaw just gave you 20% charge when you respawn, just like that. As you can imagine, it was pretty much banned everywhere. It was one of those weapons that had the same effect as the Darwin's Danger Shield, where if one player equipped it, the other was forced to as well, or else be left sitting at a crazy disadvantage. Enter the new Vitasaw, and things get a little bit more exciting. Where the Ubersaw rewards you for doing damage and living, this one rewards you for doing damage and dying. Collecting organs means that you will gain an extra 15% Ubercharge when you respawn, capping out at 60%. The weapon descriptions seemed a bit misleading. For some reason I thought it would keep 15% of your current percentage, like if you got 1 organ and you were at 50%, it would keep 15% of 50%. Now it sounds stupid, and so let's just say thank God that's not the case. It turns out for every organ you collect, your Ubercharge will be increased by 15% and give you that percentage when you respawn. As long as your initial charge was at or above the amount it will allow you to retain, you can keep that much Ubercharge. For example, if I had 63% Uber charge and I somehow managed to get 4 organs, I will keep 60% of my charge the next time I respawn. But if I have 3 organs and only 36% charged when I die, I will respawn with only that 36%. Even though had I charged to 45, I would have kept all of it. To put it simply, it only keeps your Uber charge if the number of organs grants a percentage higher than your current level. This effect also works during an Uber charge, as long as your charge is still above the amount of organs you picked up. It is important to understand that the Vitasaw will only retain the Uber charge that you currently have. So if you use an Uber and die during it, only to respawn and wonder where the charge went, it's straight down the drain like an uncommitted hipster's kale milkshake. Also worth mentioning, this effect does not transfer during pre-round, meaning you can't get a couple of organs before the round starts and then save your charge for when it really begins. Also worth noting is the health penalty. Some people may neglect this, and honestly I don't blame them, and 10 health doesn't seem like a lot. But when it comes down to it, 10 health can make all the difference in the world. Much like the right man in the wrong place, isn't that right, Mr. Freeman? The amount of times I have gotten to a health kit just mere arrays dick lengths away from dying, it's just too many to count. And had I been using the Vitasaw, I wouldn't have survived them at all. At least 80% of them I would have died. The 10 less max health also has a minor but noticeable effect on a lot about the medic. First of all, health kits give you less health. Granted, it's only 2 or 3 points, but it's enough. The quick fix Uber charge is also affected. Instead of putting your overheal at 185, we're now at 175. The quick fix's Uber charge is also affected. Instead of putting your overheal at 185, you're now at 175. Again, not much of a difference, but still enough. When you get down to it though, I don't think the Vitasaw deserves the health penalty. The Ubersaw's downside is so inconsequential, most people consider it a straight upgrade from the stock anyway, which is something that really needs to be fixed. It should do less damage or at least have a slower draw speed, because the minus 25% swing speed, it's nothing. It is nothing. The only time I have ever noticed it is when I switched from stock, and even then I can barely tell. Within 2 minutes of using it, it might as well just be a regular melee weapon that has an added bonus. I'm getting distracted again. The Vitasaw puts you at the same risk as the Ubersaw, granted, but this means that in order to gain an advantage from the Vitasaw, you don't have to take any unnecessary risks, which I think is the real reason to consider using the Vitasaw. Anytime you would whip out the junkie's retirement plan to spread some friendly neighborhood HIV, you would already be on the brink of death anyway. With the Vitasaw, you can use that risk you're already in to help your team recover faster. The Vitasaw is useful when the other team is just better at killing than you are. And if you know you're gonna hit the dirt, this weapon will help you bounce back much easier. Each is more than viable, but when it comes to my personal preference, I'm still going to use the Ubersaw. Yeah, I know, shut up. Mainly for the fact that I'm a pretty aggressive medic normally, and possibly to a fault, but also for that sweet extra 10 health. The benefits the Ubersaw gives me from pegging people with it are too big for me to pass up, particularly in competitive settings. The one time I use the Vitasaw is in conjunction with the Kritzkrieg. The Kritzkrieg is the only metagun that does not protect the medic during a charge, and since you already gain Ubercharge 25% faster, there is less of a need for the Ubersaw and more of a need for something that can give you a safety net if things go wrong. If you're a beginner medic though, I would recommend the Vitasaw, especially if you have a very unreliable team. Sometimes you gotta do things yourself, and this Bioshock-ish looking dirty needle is the way to do it. But the important thing is, which do you prefer? Would you rather a high-risk, high-reward sort of weapon where you could take advantage of the slim chances, or a weapon that provides a safety net and lets you be more proactive in giving your team an advantage after being wiped? Let me know in the comments and tell me what you think of the new Vitasaw versus the Ubersaw dynamic. Unfortunately though, here's the bad news. You guys just sat through an entire ArraySeven video. I hope you enjoyed it, at least some of it, and I wish you all an exceedingly handsome rest of your day.
I'm the invincible, undefeated champion. Mount Zion's my ancestors can't rely on. Star of David, nah, the thought of stardom. Martyrdom and done crumbs left to the dumb thumb. To this play button, glutton of words, mud.